Hey, it's Mudflaps, back with another loot guide video for Ulduar 25-man, the Siege of Ulduar, the first 4 bosses. And today we're going to go over like a loot council idea for loot distribution, and the main point of what I'm trying to do is divvy up loot in a reasonable and intelligent manner that makes the raid stronger while wasting as little loot as possible and trying to reward players that deserve it. So the video might help a loot council, and it might help just players that know their own BIS but might not know everyone else's BIS that's vying for the same things that you want. So it's good to know all those variables. And to understand like kind of my philosophy when coming into this, the first thing I consider is armor types. We try most of the time to make sure that we're giving people loot that belongs to their proper armor type, because if you have a plate wearer that has BIS leather or BIS cloth, and that cloth piece drops, and you give it to the plate wearer, and they had a pretty good option in plate, when that plate option drops later and no one can use it, you have wasted loot, and you have made your raid weaker. Now, a caveat to that is, if there is no good plate option, then of course, put them on the same playing field as everyone else. But that is the first thing to do, to not waste loot and not do silly things like throw away loot entirely. Now, the other thing to consider is, what kind of guild are you? Are you running things to where you're going to be trying to clear all the hard modes within like the first month? If so, then, you know, Ret Paladins and Arms Warriors and Ellie Shamans, they're not doing so hot. You might be funneling gear to certain classes, tanks first, and then maybe high impact DPS to break those thresholds of DPS measurements. And those other classes might get skipped for a little bit. And that can be reasonable in certain guilds. And then, if it's a guild that's going to take months and months to clear this all, it's not reasonable to skip everyone for that long, obviously. And so many of the things I'm going to talk about should shift after about a month of gearing, and you should start to break away from some of these hard and fast rules to make sure you're splitting up gear in a way that's very reasonable and fair to your guild. And with that, let's jump into it. So the first item is the Constructor's Hand Wraps. Now, these are good for mages, good for Disc Priest, good for Shadow Priest. Do they want it? Many of them are going to be like, oh no, I need this, I need tier, I need this thing. And it just depends, because we're at the very beginning of the phase where everything is technically an upgrade, and you have to let people know, yes, you're still prioed on whatever other things that are coming up, and if you're worried about your 252 BIS, you know, that might be a ways away, so don't skip over the big upgrades right away. And so if Mage off-piece was hands with token respect, then these are a strict upgrade. Now, I know Mage is trying to get a lot of hit moving into this phase, so it just depends, but not a crazy piece, but any of them could use it. Remember, many people are coming from 213 eye level to 232. It's a massive increase. Embrace of the Leviathan. This is a strict upgrade over Leash. You could give to Demo first here, but any caster that didn't get Leash, I would consider them highly to bring them back into the fold here. And that could be a good way to pass out this piece in the first weeks. Mechanist bindings, these are actually really, really good. These are really good. Now, leather wearers only have the Algalon bracers, which, remember, for most guilds, 99% of guilds, that's going to be a far off thing. Okay, so you can just not even think about those for a while. Then you've got the 10-man hard mode XT ones, which are great for feral and combat. And assassination, they're okay. So assassination, probably best option for a while with these, and it's actually pretty big, so I wouldn't sleep on it. Again, you're going from 213 to 232. Many of us, if you think about your phase 1 BIS, you were like, most of the gear was 213. So you were like, wow, 213, that's so huge. And you're coming from eye level 200 from 5-mans and badge loot, and you got 13 eye levels, and you thought that was big. Now, for perspective's sake, this is much bigger than that. So remember that the 232 loot, most of it is actually really sick. So don't get lost in the 252 loot discussion, and think about all these other pieces as well. Steamworkers goggles, resto, right? Easy enough. Gloves of the fiery behemoth. MM could use it. Unfortunately for this piece, there is a badge piece that's quite good for people, and Enhance wouldn't want this. Survival really wouldn't want this. If you're strapped for badges, MM would take this right off the bat if you've got one. And that's about it for this piece. Iron riveted warhelm, really solid piece for Unholy DK and Ret Paladin. I would probably go Unholy first, and then after that, Ret, and then the other plate wearers if they desire this. It's pretty good, and it's BOE. Heads up. Mimiron's Inferno couplings. This is tank bis right off the bat. First boss, normal mode, nothing better for the plate tanks. So main tank, go from there. You're very happy if this drops. Freya's Choker of Warding. So if Disc Priest can use the haste, this is a great piece for them, but you should probably consider Resto Druid and Resto Shaman and Holy Paladin first, because they always want this haste, okay? So very big piece. If you don't have the 25-man Mally piece, yeah, this is, which most healers probably don't have that. And then Disc Rejoice, because this should probably go to you first. It's a great ring. The only caveat is maybe you could give to Demo, but pretty good impact for Disc, honestly, in this slot. Strength of the Automaton. You got Frost Death Knight and your Warrior DPS. It's pretty good for both. I would give to either of them before anyone else, and you could lean towards your Frost early because technically they're going to be doing more, and you probably will run more of them than Warriors, usually. Leviathan's Coil, excellent tank ring right off the bat. If you have a Feral Druid, this is huge, and it's pretty big for Blood Decay as well, so more great tank loot off the first boss in normal. So Leviathan's Fueling Manual. Again, this is one of those things where don't get baited by, oh, Cosmos, that's what I'm going for. Well, yeah, how long is it going to be till you get that to drop? It's probably, for 99% of people, it's going to be a while till you see that drop. So what you're really looking at is this and the Kolagarn Iron Mender. And so Iron Mender, really you should consider giving to healers and this to DPS, but there's also one more superseding factor, and that is either one, whichever one drops first, you should just give to the Demo, and then get them one of these, and then move on with that other fast and loose rule for who you give these to. And it's a hit piece, so the people who came in with a hit offhand are probably going to want to keep doing that, but it depends on what gear changes for you. Hit is always in fluctuation for people, right? Steam Caller's Totem, Resto Shaman, Titan Guard, Prot Warrior, and then Prot Pally. And then if anyone wants it after that. I know it's not ideal for Prot Pally, but it's strictly an upgrade from Last Laugh, so not bad. And Rising Sun is Warrior Rogue. It's going to be a strict upgrade over anything you had in the prior phase, so not bad here either. And then the spicy loot from Flame Leviathan hard mode. So the first thing to think of with these is really your Demo again. It's going to be a theme in all the loot discussion videos, just like last time. This time the same thing. The stronger your demo, the stronger almost everyone is. So there's no bigger impact. There's no smarter way to pass out these kinds of items, right? The spirit, spell power, haste items, they're just perfect. Then after them, then biggest impact is going to be your Aflocks, right? And many of the other, well, Shadow Priest would love this. Even your healers would love this. Disc Priest, Resto Druid would love this. But mages and boomkins and stuff, they're going to go for the Yogg ones. Boomkins eventually. And so I would give Demo then then figure out the other things after this. But you have to hit enough of these to drop to figure things out. And shoulder pads of dormant energies, these are strictly to Boomkin, and that's it. This is the only option here. And then big time legs, you're thinking Unholy Death Knight first, and then you could give Tourette, and I would put your Frosty Case before Warriors, because eventually they want the leather ones, but it just depends. What's dropping more for you guys if you're killing these hard modes. And so, but I would hard and fast rule Unholy DK first on this. Pendant of Fiery Havoc. This is another one that lots of casters want this if they want hit in their setup. This is not a demo one. You would rather get the Sapphire Neck for them, but huge for Athlock again. So Athlock really like this boss. So I would go with them first on this, and then you can divvy it up after that. I would avoid giving this to a demo unless you're getting crazy unlucky with the other one. You eventually just need to give them some sort of big neck upgrade. But you're really not getting that much out of giving this to them. They're getting personal DPS out of it. The raid is not winning if you give them personal DPS items. Remember, they signed up to be the demo. They get crazy prio. You don't give them personal DPS items over other people. That's them trying to double dip in the system. Golden Serenite Dragon. Combat rogue first, then enhance. So Spell Enhance is still alive, and it's doing quite well, especially on multi-target. But unfortunately, the things they need for Spell Enhance are super contested. Now, so they'll eventually probably get this really quickly, and in single target, this is their best. But if they're trying to do some sort of combo, that gets a little tricky to gear them because they need more loot than other people because they're basically trying to gear 2 specs. Mages are also in a similar boat where they have to go between Arcane and Fire for where they shine, and so they kind of have to tweak their gear a little bit, so it becomes difficult for both of them to gear the way they want to. And just communicate with them what's going on between the weeks, what they need to excel. And let's move on to Ignis, the Furnace Master Suit Covered Mantle. This is kind of one of those, this is a filler piece. Even though it's 232, for many people, you have to break a set bonus. And so this could be a piece that you collect for when you do break a set bonus with a bigger piece, and then you wear this in tandem with that. I could see that. And if you're not using your tier and you're not getting any bonus and you need the hit as a caster, or maybe Shadow Priest, then sure, this would be a direct upgrade if it works for your setup. Flame Rot Cinch. This is Boomkin Prio. That's it. Flamestalker Boots. Great for assassination. Good for combat. Good for feral. But they all have other things they would rather have. Even the crafted ones are slightly better, but that's the weird catch with this one. The crafted ones are only slightly better, but they're true bis. What a paradox. So you have to decide if you're giving ruined orbs away to somebody. You're like, yes, this is my true bis. Yeah, but how big is that upgrade? If you see these drop, they can, you know, your rogue can sit on these for a while. They don't need the silence footpaths right away. They can wait, or they can go buy ruined orbs themselves. These are quite good until you get enough orbs to do that. Unless these aren't dropping, then yeah, and you're sitting on a bunch of orbs, then give them their bis. You know, let them craft their bis. But things to think about. Helm of the Furnace Master. So this is the offset piece for enhance. They absolutely will use 4-piece tier. They're going to use it into tier 9. Okay, it's absolutely incredible. We'll get to that in a different video for tier Prio. But depending on how well your guild's doing, is Boundless Gaze even in the vicinity of a reality right now? Is it in the first few weeks, in the first 2 to 3 weeks, is Boundless Gaze even in your vicinity? For most guilds, no. So this is going to be really sick until that day comes. And this is really good for hunters too, but you can look at it as who is going to get Prio on the Helm of Avalon eventually, or you can just say, hey, this is my hunters really need some loot, we'll give it to them. Or you say, this is already the one off piece that enhances it, and they're going to use their tier the whole time, where hunters will try to replace theirs. So it could go either way. I'd probably lean towards enhance. Wrist guards of the Fire Tender. These are okay. Resto Shaman. Lifeforge breastplate. This is an okay pally chest piece. The problem is they don't want to break their 4-set until they have to. But this would be the off-piece slot. So collect it, hold on to it until you get the 4-piece, and then, or maybe you have a different setup. It's okay. This is one of those times where they do have mail options that are far, far better, and this is not that good. Girdle of Embers. Frost Decay. Warrior. Great for both. Really good for both. Charred Serenite Greaves. You have craft stuff you can make for your tank. You have this if it drops. This is pretty decent, so no complaints when this drops, and not too much drama. You'd go main tank first on most things, unless you already have like a crafted piece ready for one of the tanks. It depends what kind of tank you're bringing. Cinder Shard, ring barrel first, combat, and then everyone else that wants a filler ring. It will be better than anything they're wearing, but generally speaking, you should go in that order for this, and then they'll build towards those quest items way down the line. Pyrelite Circle, this is a sleeper item. This is really good. Honestly, it's best. I would give to Ellie, but again, they're low impact generally, but you do have to find love for them somewhere after a bit, and then you do have to keep them geared to justify bringing them if you are. And so it is something to consider, but if you're not going to do that, or if you don't bring one, then anyone who doesn't need hit, this is so good. And again, I know casters are looking at the Mega Abyss setup and they're like, there's so much hit I have to drop hit every other than fire mages. They all have to drop hit somewhere. Well, yeah, but you're going to be replacing Dying Curse and Wanton. You're going to be losing hundreds of hit. So think about that. Heart of Iron is the best tank trinket in the game in the next phase. If this drops, you are super excited. Good luck. Totems of this is not good. Moving on. World Carver. This is a good item. Warriors and Rep Paladins could use this, and they should consider it when it drops. Now, I know it's not Bis, it's not even close to Mega Bis, but it's a weapon upgrade. It's not like these other slots. You guys get so much from weapon upgrades, even if it doesn't look like it's that big. You have to imagine you're going from either a 213 or 226 to 238. Okay, this is probably an upgrade for almost any of those people, and I would sim it, but in all the sims I've done, it's actually a pretty significant DPS increase, and everyone's sleeping on it because they see the hard mode swords and stuff like that. So don't just forget about it. Don't be like, oh, I guess World Carver, I guess I'll take it. Oh, it's good. It's really good. It's probably a bigger upgrade than any of your armor pieces because weapons do that for you. Now, intensity, if somebody was really unlucky, didn't get those 226 weapons with the combo for offhand, this will suffice if they need the hit. Now, the one thing about staves is that, generally speaking, they almost always lose out, except for a few, to a one-hand offhand combo of some sort. Now, there are really strong staves in the hard modes that will be pretty close, but this is not one of them. So this is kind of a filler for the pieces that got really screwed in the first phase and didn't get the things that they were hoping to drop, which RNG is RNG, right? And that's why it's so important that we try to pass out loot in a good way, because you never know what's going to drop. We saw there were many items that still never dropped in the first phase, surprisingly for us. Scepter of Creation, this is really good. A Disc Priest wand, fire. If they don't need the hit, they're going to need a lot of hit, but generally speaking, we know everybody wants the 10-man Freya wand. I know, everyone wants it, but everyone wants it, okay? So on the way there, this is actually big. And the one, there's another one from Siege of Ulduar that is really a hit one that's really big compared to what you're wearing coming into the phase. So don't just sleep on these. Yes, eventually you're going to want the Freya Sprig, but until that time comes, which may never come, these are big. All right, consider these. Razorscale. So, Drape of the Drake Rider, Warrior, Rosti-K. After that, anyone wants to go for it, this is pretty good for them. Collar of the Worm Hunter, kind of another slept-on item. The only problem is breaking set bonuses. If you need to break a set bonus, then you might want to just hold on to this till you do break set bonus with a combo of pieces. But if you need hit, this is an insanely good 232 piece. Shadow Priest, if you're needing hit, I know you won't be coming in with Tier Helm, so yeah, amazing. Boomkins it's even really good for, honestly, so you can consider them. Again, this isn't this for anybody, so this is just who can use the hit and doesn't need to mess up a set bonus on the way. So not a bad item at all. Shackles of the Odalisk, this is great for disc, and anyone who didn't get Unsullied, this is going to be pretty good for them. So consider any of the casters, although locks generally don't want crit as much as they'd like haste. Depends what you're wearing, but I would consider disc first, and then everyone else that's a caster that could utilize this over whatever, maybe they're wearing 213 instead of Unsullied, consider them too. Bracers of the Broodmother, Resto Druid, without question. Proto-Hide leggings, so these are kind of weird because expertise, okay, your combat rogue and your feral druid, they've got so much expertise in their talents, they really don't need a lot from gear. These are probably not going to be something they go for unless they're in a weird flux with what kind of expertise they have on the rest of their stuff. Now, if they don't have the Mali chest, maybe this is great for them. Assassination is looking for a lot of expertise, so this could easily be a great filler for an assassination rogue and possibly for the other two leather wearers. I could even see, in some cases, enhanced as a filler till they get tier, but that's if they're very unlucky, because they should be prioed high on tier. That's another video. Belt of the Fallen Worm, awesome piece for Ellie, Resto, even Holy Paladin. So Ellie, Resto first, then Holy Paladin. Serenite Mesh Legguards, actually pretty good piece. If you're running an MM, this is really good. I know they're going to want to get tier in the meantime for things, so I don't know how long this will last for your guild, but it depends on the drop rate of things. So we'll see. It's not that great for enhance. It's okay, above average-ish for survival, and just go from there. Razorscale shoulder guards. Prop pallies are not going to break their 4-piece for this. This is essentially a shard. Dragon Slayer's Brace, Prot Pally, Prot Warrior, great piece. Living Flame, an interesting piece here. If you didn't get Dying Curse, and many people were really unlucky, this could be a great piece. Okay, and on-use trinkets are going to have a lot of use in hard modes in Ulduar, so don't think that, oh, an on-use, that makes it weak. No, it's actually, for many fights, people are going to want to get an on-use set for these things. So consider that in this phase, and in future phases, honestly, they'll become more prevalent and more useful. That being said, there's an interesting thing about this one. If you're a horde, you need just a little bit more hit, so you would replace Dying Curse with this in your demo setup. Your demo would use this with Flare. In Alliance, you'd still use Dying Curse. So, interesting little tidbit there. Libram of Discord. Ret Paladin, Sigil of Deflection, Blood, Remorse. Now, you could have a Sword Rogue that could go for this, and honestly, it fims kind of well. It's not the best setup, but if you're gonna throw them away, and you have the other Bis main hand slow sword, then these work well for combat. However, combat's Bis main hand is super uncontested, and they have plenty of offhands that are better if they're not going sword. Meanwhile, Unholy's Bis is super contested, so this would probably be best. It would be best to give to Unholy unless they have better already and the rogue's struggling. The combat rogue needs it, sure, but I would give to Unholy DK first and go from there. Now, Guiding Star is an interesting one because this is a pure upgrade from Torch. If somebody doesn't have Torch, got super unlucky, throw this to them immediately, right? If everyone has Torch, then look at the other prios of the other things you're going to be giving and figure it out with that. The other thing to consider is who's getting Valinir. Don't be throwing them upgrades early on when you know Disc Priest isn't getting it, and maybe the other healers who you don't have getting it first, maybe throw them the upgrades first, obviously. Varanus's Bane, Prot Warrior, no one else can use it, easy enough. And then XT. Alright, Mantle of Wavering Calm. Again, this is a slot where people are generally using tier. If they're not, then any of the casters that would like this, if like a Holy Priest wants it or something, sure, it's a filler because generally this is a slot where tier is going to be used for a lot of people. So nothing crazy, no drama with this piece. Sandals of Rash Temperament. This is a great Fire Mage piece. I would give to a Fire Mage if you have one, and then after that, any of the locks or even Shadow Priest if they need hit. Remember, you're gonna be in flux a lot when you're upgrading your gear. Even though we've looked at these mega Abyssalists and you think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have so much hit. Yeah, eventually, if you have all those 252 pieces, which is, months away. So in the meantime, these hit pieces that you've glossed over are gonna be super important. So don't sleep on those. Boots of Hasty Revival, Boomkin, Quartz Studded Harness, Resto Shaman, and then maybe Holy Paladin. But again, Holy Paladin doesn't want to do this until they can break their 4-set, because the other 4-set, in which case this would be their off piece, and you can go from there. Brass lined boots. These are not good. Yeah. Maybe no. There's crafting. You can just craft boots. Nah. Shoulder plates of the Deconstructor. So these are great for tanks. Easy enough. Main tank first if they want it. Horologist Brisk Guards, another easy selection. Only Holy Paladins can use it. And Clockwork Leg Plates. Okay, now you're getting to the Frosty K Warrior option again, and this is great because you're probably prioing your Unholies on the first boss hard mode loot, and then if you're killing Yogg 1, then you're giving Leatherwearers the other things. So the Warriors and Frosty Ks need something till those get passed out. This is a great upgrade. Crazed Construct Ring. This Unholy off normal mode XT. Pretty nice. Them first without question. Signet of the Earthshaker. Prot Warrior, Prot Paladin, easy enough. Sigil of the Vengeful Heart. This should go to Unholy DKs. Thunderfall Totem. Garbage. Golem Shard Sticker. Now, this is not obviously close to Biss. The Biss weapons for either your offhand for combat or for either hand for assassination are Blade Twister, even Combatant's Boot Blade and stuff like that. And then even the 1.8 hard mode Oblivion Dagger is better. But this is basically 4th best, and there are like 6 daggers to choose from. So technically, I mean, it's going to be better than Sinister Revenge if you're coming in with that in your offhand. This will be an upgrade in that regard, but you do have a ton of options other than this, but it is still going to be an upgrade over that, and there are a lot of things to sim as a rogue to figure out what you should do when you get a dagger, but this is still going to be an upgrade, so take it. Twisted Visage, Feral Druid. I know the hunters want these staves that they see drop that have all the agi and all the stats. Unfortunately, if you don't know, as a hunter player, this stat stick is so inferior compared to what a Feral Druid gains. Even if they're doing less damage than you, the amount of DPS they gain from a weapon will always be the better play. If they already had this and a better one dropped and the hunter's wearing an old thing, you should still give all of these staves to the Feral first, to be honest, because they're gaining hundreds of DPS with these, and a hunter is not even gaining a fraction of that comparatively. But it's just because Ferals triple dip from the stats on weapons, so they're basically, no one else gets as much out of anything as a Feral Druid has out of a weapon. So something to consider there. Yeah. Then Quartz Crystal Wand. This is the hit upgrade to consider. There is another one later, and then also the Sprig. So this is good. This is going to be way better than anything you have coming into this phase. Again, I know people like Sprig, huge upgrade. Anyone that needs it, Fire Mage might need it for the hit. Any of the casters that need hit, or if you're coming in with a hit wand and you're dropping something else, awesome upgrade, and not insignificant either. Honestly, through the sims, we looked at this a lot. The wands are actually not bad. They're decent sized upgrades, because again, you're going not from 213 to 232. You're not going from 226 to 232. You're going from 213 to 238. Right? This is a pretty big stat gain here, so something to consider with that. And then lastly, the spicy loot, that you've all been waiting for out of XT, right? Grasps of Reason. Without question, Demo lock first, right? When they gain, we all gain. Simple enough. There is no arguing with that. But there is something that I might do that other builds might not think is the smart thing to do, but I've looked at this a lot, and I've talked with lots of people that we've gone over the Sims, and the gain you get as a caster DPS from second bis to this is so incredibly minuscule. People are worried about the wand gains not being big. This is even less, right? For many people in a lot of setups we did. And you're actually not getting that much to give for personal DPS to any of your caster DPS. The only exception, Demo, because everyone gains from it. Then no question there. So this is a chance to give healers love where their impact is probably just as good as the DPS because the DPS are gaining so little. So consider your Disc Priest and consider your Resto Druid on these because they're not getting a lot. And you gotta find ways to give them nice upgrades. And this is a place where I think it's smart to do that. Gloves of the Steady Hand, Hunter Bis for the rest of the phase. Go to them first. Enhance could make this their off piece if Boundless Gaze isn't dropping, but I would put them second in this position and probably give them Boundless Gaze first when you eventually get to it. Breastplate of the Devoted, Palibus, easy enough. Charm of Meticulous Timing. Alright, all the healers want this. Who's gonna get it? Well, what'd you do with the Flame Leviathan one? You could work around that. Are people still working with 213 eye level or even 200 eye level next? You might be. So in that regard, I would give it to the biggest upgrade, honestly. It's great for all of them, so whoever's getting the most out of it, and the one caveat is only Disc Priest if they can use the haste, right? So if they can't use it and they gotta put a bunch of worse gear on to make this piece work, then don't give it to them. That doesn't make any sense. But if they can use it, then absolutely consider them. Sorthalis, Hammer of the Watchers, Prop Warrior, and then only give to your Prop Paladin if you're in a bind and all the other weapons are not dropping for them. And you're like, you know what, our tank doesn't have enough gear, we gotta get them more, this is dropped, and we just been very unlucky with gear for them. Then maybe them. But generally speaking, if they've been getting upgrades, this is one of the cases where this isn't really that great for. It's good for them. It's going to be an upgrade for anything from the past phase, but it's not crazy. They have lots of better upgrades, even normal mode items that are better upgrades. So I would probably go with Unholy after a Prop Warrior for this item. And after that, you can decide for your guild, but it's going to depend on where you stand with your guild. And if you're killing XD hard mode, your Prop Pally probably has better. So with that is the Siege of Ulduar, the first 4 bosses. It's time for me to shill myself and say, please, please, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me a ton. It makes it so I can make these and give more time to work on them and help you guys out. And I have a lot more info and videos to come, and I would appreciate it much. And I shall see you on the next one.